We've seen how sailors are doing their part in revamping ocean protection, and now let's explore what some government leaders are doing to safeguard the ocean. Shortly, we'll hear how the European Commission plans to help protect this precious resource. But first, let's take a trip to the tropics, where I previously connected with the former president of Palau, Tommy Remengesau. Palau has been leading the charge in ocean protection with their bold steps, serving as a great example of how other nations can conserve what we have left. President Remengesau, you have created an incredible legacy. Can you tell me more about how Palauan heritage influenced these laws and policies, and how other countries can learn from Palau's culture of conservation?
You know, when you live in a small island setting surrounded by vast oceans, you're actually from a large ocean state. And with it comes the large and great responsibility of making sure that the health of the ocean continues to sustain life as we know it on the islands. Throughout our history, our culture and traditions have always taught us that you must think about the future. Don't just think about yesterday and today, think about the future. And so from early age, we are taught that conservation is a large part of who we are and whether we survive as an island people and as island countries. That's why it's important that our laws reflect those values. And so we have been able over the years to put those traditional practices, those values, to become the law of the land. That's why we did the Palau National Marine Sanctuary, which fully protects 80% of our territorial waters, something like 500,000 square kilometers of fully protected area. We understood the intertwined and interdependence relationship of the coral reefs and the vast ocean. We knew there's a value of protecting the fish so that they can move on to other places. There's a spillover factor very much behind the scientific value of protecting the ocean so that other open areas can also thrive. We also did the Palau Awareness or the Palau Pledge. It makes sense that this is an international partnership, that visitors and friends who come to Palau also share in the responsibility with our children to fully protect the ocean, fully protect the environment, so that we can all live in a world that now depends on the good health of the ocean in order to survive. That's the value of what we have done in putting traditional and cultural values to become the law of the land. I know a lot of countries are faced with similar challenge of how we can fully protect the next generation. You know, a wise man once said, the environment and the ocean is not really our inheritance to enjoy only. We are actually borrowing it from our future children. And that's the way we should think about it. The climate crisis is the #1 challenge for the future of the world. Countries need to have stronger and robust laws for them to protect their waters, protect their environment, and protect their people. But at the same time, in doing so, they will also be mitigating the problems and the impacts that their actions are also having on smaller island nations like Palau and the rest of the Pacific. So there's an intertwined, an interdependence relationship and partnership that must be in place if we are to ensure that, yes, there is a bright future for our children.
You're a father of 4 and a grandfather of 6, and after 16 years as head of state, what are some of your hopes for the future and for future generations globally?
My hope actually is with the younger generation, because when I look at what needs to be done, I hear the voices of the young people much stronger than the leadership and the generations of the leadership. Our hopes is that they grow up to take the responsibility of the government, the private sector, and the NGOs, and truly accelerate the pace of actions that needs to take place. And I'm very heartened, I'm very pleased when I see the movements of many generations of youth today, fighting for a better future for them. To me, it takes the heart first before the action comes. And that's my one wish, that's my hope, and that's my dream.
What a fantastic legacy to leave. Now, President Remengesau is out of office. He told us that he's returned to life as a fisherman, but he's still devoted to protecting the ocean through a number of initiatives, such as the Remengesau Foundation, which is committed to working with young people. He's also a member of the Council of Chiefs and continues to work with the wisdom and knowledge of the chiefs in order to fully protect the ocean and do important work with the government. And more recently, he was invited to be an ambassador with the Pew Bertarelli Ocean Legacy Foundation, working with other ocean leaders, spreading the message that we all need to work in partnership in all sectors to truly make a difference. Thank you, President Remengesau. So let's sail back to Europe, where we're honored to have a leader in ocean protection, the Minister for Ecological Transition in Spain, Teresa Ribera, here to discuss ocean protection, along with welcoming back the EU Commissioner of Environment, Ocean and Fisheries, Virginijus Sinkevičius. Let's jump right into the specifics of how the EU plans to protect the ocean. So, Deputy Prime Minister Ribera, where does Spain stand in effective protection of 30% of national waters and the 30 by 30 movement?
We are working hard. Hello, it's a great pleasure to see you all and to follow this conversation that you have organized in such an attractive manner with so many committed people. We are working hard because we know, as a country surrounded by water, by the ocean, we know that our economy, our welfare, our prosperity, but also those of who are to come depend on the healthy states of the ocean. And it is important for the climate, it's important for the biodiversity, but as I say, it is also important in an egoist manner for us, humankind. So we have been working hard in a program that tries to understand how we can characterize those areas that we want to protect. There's a symbolic reference to achieve 30% of the ocean surface being protected by 2030. We are been working to define these areas to raise the bar up to 15% in 2023 and up to almost 22% in 2025, so that we can achieve this goal by 2030. And this program, what we call INTEMARES, Integrated Project to Identify Biodiversity, the state of the waters, and so on, is convening very interesting people and research on how best we can learn what we have. And after that, it's what it matters, how we can define with the protection of the rules, the protection of the law, but also the compatibility of the different activities in those areas that are not protected. We can ensure a proper level of state, for the ocean.
Excellent. Thank you, Deputy Prime Minister. So, Commissioner, I'd also like to hear more about the EU's commitment to the 30 by 30 goals. With fewer than 1% of European marine protected areas fully off limits to fishing, are there specific blue parks within the EU that will be established in order to help us reach the 30% goal by 2030?
So, at our biodiversity strategy for 2030, which is, I think, the most ambitious document we have the ambitious goal of protecting 30% of the EU seas. And at the moment, as an example, we are at around 12% with national protected areas and with Natura 2000 areas. So now, of course, member states will cooperate very closely in defining those areas which could be protected. And together, of course, member states, stakeholders are currently consulting and finalizing the most important criteria, because we don't want it to only establish and call a 30% protected areas. We want to really protect it and ensure that it's monitored, it's taken care of. And by 2024, of course, we will take stock where we are. are we on, let's say, on a track to reach that goal?
Awesome. Now, swinging back over to Deputy Prime Minister, moving a little further from home in Spain, how do you plan to lead in protecting Antarctica?
We have been, together with other colleagues from different regions of the world, insisting on the importance of the protection of the Antarctica. And there, the areas are already very well identified, thanks to the cooperation coming from different countries. And I think that what it is important is to focus on that purpose, on that objective, because it is true that what we think about the Antarctica is research, is peace, is multilateral cooperation, but it is also a biodiversity reservoir and a very symbolic climate thermostat. So it is important to achieve this goal. We have been working hard while we were presiding the conference of the CAMLAR, so working on the Antarctic Treaty. But now we have a new opportunity to provide some support to our colleagues from Sweden who are in charge of this task, because we want to celebrate that 30 years ago, we had a great success dealing with the Antarctica in Madrid, with the Protocol of Madrid to protect the biodiversity in the Antarctic area. And I think that it is time to stocktake what we have achieved, what it is still missing, and how we are looking into the future. And we would be delighted to share views and to identify whatever concern there may be in some of our colleagues who are also signatories of these very important treaties around the Antarctica.
Wonderful. Commissioner, the Baltic Sea Action Plan is unique with the number of governments coming together to agree to protect this specific water basin, so including your own Lithuanian government. Do you think we could learn from this initiative when we look at protecting Antarctica and the Arctic? And how will the EU support protection of these important regions and the high seas?
So absolutely, it's a good example. First of all, it's a good example because of cross-sectoral cooperation, because countries which share the coast of the Baltic Sea, and especially their ministers, agreed to work together. And ministers responsible not only for environment, which is you don't need an extra effort convincing them, but actually ministers responsible for agriculture, ministers responsible for fisheries. And they all signed a declaration with clear goals, which has to be reached. And this year we will take stock of what happened through the year. But most important that everyone is rowing the same direction, and out of that the Baltic Sea will only benefit. Now, speaking, of course, about Antarctic, and I'm very thankful that Teresa is here. She's a great leader and an inspiration. She was hosting the chair of CAMLAR not so far ago. And in April, I hosted a ministerial meeting with most ambitious countries, where we, of course, discussed our way forward in establishing marine protected areas in East Antarctica and Weddell Sea. And that would be unprecedented marine protected areas, by far the largest in the world. And what I'm particularly glad about that New Zealand and the US joined as the co-sponsors, of course, throwing their weight behind our proposal. And I think this also gives additional boost. We'll definitely going to do more. I hope that we're going to have another ministerial in September, where by that time we will outreach to other CAMLAR members. And then, of course, we're going to have a meeting of the parties, where Sweden is going to host it as a chair. And hopefully we'll be able to reach an agreement. Speaking about the Arctic policy, I'm particularly happy that we have an international agreement on protecting unregulated high seas fisheries in the central Arctic Ocean. And I'm pleased to share with you that this agreement kicks in from the 25th of June. And that's a very positive step.
A positive step indeed. And can you provide just a few more specifics, please, especially regarding the United Nations Biodiversity Beyond National Jurisdiction Agreement, BBNJ?
With regard of the BBNJ, or so-called the High Seas Agreement, I'm very much attached to, of course, reaching a speedy conclusions. yes, the pandemic prevented us from live meetings, from tough negotiations, but I think a lot has been done, and it's time to really move forward and finally reach agreement and protect the high seas, because at the moment we're trying and we're doing relatively well what is close to our shores and close to country shores, but when it comes to high seas, unfortunately, it's so much to be done. And of course, I'm looking forward for another date to be set of intergovernmental conference, where we, of course, be pushing for agreement to be reached.
Well, thank you for answering that, Commissioner. One final question for you. We heard from Pascal Lamy about revamping ocean governance in the proposed Mission Starfish report for the European Commission and its ambitious targets. What does revamping ocean governance mean to you, and how will it help the Green Deal?
First of all, let me thank Pascal and his team for an excellent work and for their report, because it really fits in very well with our Green Deal objectives, putting a spotlight on the oceans, which undeservedly often is forgotten. We have started preparation to update our international governance agenda, and we are in the middle of our consultation. So, of course, the report will perfectly fit in. In the EU, we think that we have to, of course, first of all, lead by example, and our 30% protection goal, our common fisheries policy of sustainable fishing is something where this is the must homework which we have to do, and of course lead by example. It's going to be a very challenging, because more and more will be pressure on oceans. If you look of our further renewable energy needs, if you look that the fisheries is also providing us with nutritious food, and of course the shipping and so on will continue as an activity, so the pressures will only increase, and here importantly will come our role to ensure that seas and oceans are not treated as the first come first serve, but really we would make sure that we have a balanced approach, but most importantly we ensure a healthy ecosystems.
Definitely. Deputy Prime Minister, do you have a few parting words for us?
Please, yes. Now, I would like to make a final comment on the idea of reaching a Blue New Deal. I think that we talk very much about Green New Deal, and at the end, we may introduce this concept. As the Commissioner was saying, it is important to make the connection with what it happens in the ocean, because most of the pollution, most of the problems that the ocean suffer come from inland. So I think that we need to reconnect what this means, strengthening our capacities at the regional level. And some of the pollution that suffers the ocean come from the maritime transport and what we call the blue economy. Why we do not think the blue economy in a much more greener way? I think that this is quite a challenge. I think that we have been introducing and strengthening the connections, the dots between climate and the ocean agenda, and we may connect also with everybody in the world thinking, hey, the new green is the blue, but the blue needs to get a little bit more greener in our action.
I love that. Thank you so much. Many thanks to both of you for joining us today. We really appreciate your insights.
Bye.
Bye. Next up, we're going to hear from some of the leaders in the Ocean Race Europe's host countries and their ocean protection initiatives.
El mar forma parte de la identidad de Alicante y de la Comunidad Valenciana. Y hoy más que nunca debemos hacer frente a la emergencia climática, construyendo estrategias para construir economías sostenibles. Desde la Generalitat Valenciana apostamos por la conservación ambiental y la economía azul. La situación de nuestros mares y océanos afecta a todo el mundo. Necesita cooperación y alianzas entre regiones, administraciones y sectores públicos y privados. Y sobre todo lo que necesita es investigación, innovación e inversión. Por eso, hoy les anuncio que nuestra comunidad es una de las 4 autonomías a las que el Ministerio de Ciencia ha aprobado 4 proyectos elegibles para fondos europeos. Uno de ellos es el de sostenibilidad del medio marino, que pondremos en marcha este mismo año 2021. Tendrá un presupuesto de 50 millones de euros en total, de los cuales 10 corresponden a la Comunidad Valenciana. Y vamos a trabajar en la monitorización del medio marino, la acuicultura sostenible e inteligente, la economía azul. Y además lo vamos a hacer en cooperación con otras 4 comunidades autónomas, con Andalucía, Cantabria, Galicia y Murcia. Apostamos por nuestros océanos y confiamos en la ciencia para preservarlos.
The City of Stockholm is committed to ensuring safe and clean water quality for people and the planet. Therefore, Stockholm is investing 900 million euros in updating its wastewater treatment plant to become one of the world's largest state-of-the-art membrane technology systems. And this project is necessary for us to cope with the rapid population growth and the technology that can help us attain the much-needed requirements regulated in the Baltic Sea Action Plan and the EU Water Framework and Bathing Directives, which will protect our surrounding waters. Nitrogen emissions are reduced by 40% and emissions of microplastic are reduced to almost zero. To strengthen Stockholm's resilience to heavy rain and downpours, the project will update the infrastructure to collect wastewater, which will reduce the amount of untreated water that ends up in the sea. And we are excited to implement this new system, which will be completed by 2029, helping to keep our water clean for future generations. And we encourage other nations to also consider their water infrastructure plans in our blue-green recovery.
It's truly fantastic to see these compelling actions being taken in the host cities, the Ocean Race Europe, and these important commitments to innovation and protecting the ocean. What an exciting experience so far. Now, before we continue, I'd like everyone to take a moment to breathe together. Oh yeah, we're reminded that that second breath we just took in was provided by the ocean. This simple fact always inspires a deeper conversation, exploring how we can show greater reverence for the ocean today and every day.